So, what are some of the foundational teachings when you're talking about insight meditation? Because some of the listeners that may be listening to you, they may be here to listen to you because they're like, oh, yeah, Trudy Goodman, I want to know more. I want to hear everything that she has to say. They're your followers. But some people may be truly new to these concepts, even that
Thank
there's
you.
a differentiation between Zen versus insight meditation. What are some of the core principles, some of the teachings, some of the approaches uh, to insight or Vipassana meditation?
So, for your listeners and your followers, Diana, who may not be so familiar with this meditation, it's basically about awareness. Awareness is at the core of all of the different practices. And awareness, it means essentially getting to know yourself better and better. And it means getting to know yourself in all these different ways and contexts. So it's partly your emotional being, your psychological self, getting to know your presence or lack of it in the body, how you inhabit your own body, getting to know how you work with this constantly, really at this point in our culture, pathologically distracted minds that we all have due to all the reasons we know with our devices and so forth, and never being alone anymore the way we used to be. I mean, we're always connected, and I'm guilty of it too. I pick up my phone, how to work with and use the superpowers that we've been given with our consciousness and our attention so that we can be fully present in all the moments of our lives. And so that the awareness that we bring, the attention that we bring to what we do, can be suffused with some tenderness and some kindness and some love. And this is something that I feel can be learned in relationship and in community. And when I talk about community, I mean the community of all beings, including nature,
Mhm.
because nature is a place that we can find what our heart longs for, even if we're all alone, which is that sense of being loved. When you're out in nature and you're experiencing how everything is giving all the time, the air, the sky, the trees, the earth, that to me is an integral part of mindfulness and also of ethical living, because when you love nature and the creatures and the plants and you know you can't not begin to love and care about your fellow creatures, the humans, as problematic as we definitely are and complicated.
Yeah, you start to walk a little bit more gently on the earth when you feel connected to it and appreciative of it and are receiving its goodness. You want to give goodness back. And like, what are the steps to that? If somebody is interested in some of the things you're talking about of greater awareness of my inner world, greater awareness of my impact on the world, more loving kindness, what are some of the things that you would guide people to do? Where would they start?
I come from the Buddhist traditions, Zen and insight meditation, and have studied actually in all three traditions. But I also worked in the earliest days at the very beginning with John Kabat-Zinn because we were childhood friends. Our dads worked together.
My
So
goodness.
we'd known each other since we were teenagers.
If you
And
have a
so
photograph of that, we wanna see it. That's adorable.
I actually
Friends,
do. I
yeah,
do have a picture. It's not of just the two of us. It's
yeah.
us sitting with my family. But
Oh,
yeah, I think in that picture, I think I was, I don't know, 14 or 15, and he was 15 or 16, the older man. So we were friends since we were kids. And so I worked with him in the early days of what we called the stress reduction and relaxation program in those
mhm,
days. And in those days, whoever was teaching mindfulness was already a deeply experienced and seasoned meditator, somebody who had probably been practicing for 10 years already. And nowadays, it's a little different. Many teachers are teaching mindfulness who don't really have the deep roots in their own practice yet. So I would recommend that you take a class, because I
Mhm.
think it's really hard to do this all by yourself. And one of the silver linings of this chilling pandemic is everything's online now. Inside
Mhm.
LA was the first center to pivot to being totally online. But after a few months, other people had figured it out and jumped in. So there's lots of resources available. I would take a class in either the basics of mindfulness or mindful self compassion is
Mhm.
another beautiful way to begin, which was started by my friend Christopher Germer and his colleague Kristen Neff. But I would do it in a, a context or a place that has vetted their teachers,
Yeah.
because there needs to be sensitivity to trauma, which we didn't understand decades ago. You know, I would sometimes wonder why people would just leave suddenly. And now I realize, oh, to begin to do a mindful body scan where you bring awareness to all the parts of your body while you lie still. Oh my gosh, that can be very triggering for people. One woman said to me, you know, my brother used to hold me down and torture me basically. And every time I would lie down to do the body scan, that's what I would remember. Or,
Mhm.
you know, other kinds of experiences that are equally painful. So you want to have teachers who have some some depth of training is what I would
Mhm.
say. When I feel good about Insight LA, because I do feel we have certain standards for our teachers, but there are other reputable places too. It's just something to learn that really can enhance your life and make you happier and bring more connection, sense of connection to community, and also, frankly, how you might help out. Because one of the greatest antidotes to loneliness is helping somebody else.
Mhm.
We think self compassion, but when you're totally compassionate toward yourself, you realize I'm not different from you. I mean, sure, the details and karmic affinities of our lives are very different, but as human beings, we share a heart, we share the wish to be loved and happy, and that our life has some purpose and meaning to it, that there's a reason that we exist, and so forth.
It turns into more of a flow when you do these practices where you practice self-compassion, but then you also cultivate compassion for other and then are able to receive compassion as well. And I love the sort of concrete. Let's start with the class. And in the same way that if you were to start an exercise program, you'd want a teacher that's going to like show you how to do the lunge without injuring your knee. Like
Exactly.
there's a way to do the lunge. Do it. And if you repeat that lunge lots of times in the wrong way, it's going to hurt you. So there is some like skill and training and experience that you want from your teacher. And I would add, there's also a commitment to the practice. In the same way, if you were going to start an exercise program, you don't do it once and then do it, you know, a month from now once, but carving out the time and the commitment and the care for yourself to try it out and give it a chance and let yourself be a beginner in the beginning because
Yes.
part of being a beginner is that things are kind of awkward and hard and your mind is going to go all over the place and you're not going to want to sit still and your phone's going to buzz and all these things that are part of what makes life hard, you know, for us and out in the world are going to happen in your meditation on your meditation cushion. And the good news is you're learning how to be with those things differently. So that's where, at least for me, the kind commitment to myself around practice, even if it's a small commitment, even if it's only 10 minutes that I'm committing because my life is busy or my kids are up early or whatever, keeping it as much as I can, like protecting it. Like I protect my 6 o'clock dinner time for my family. I protect my morning practice. And it's really a priority because the rest of my life flows so much better when I'm doing this practice with my mind and my body and my compassion work. So that's great. So we start with a practice, and I'm curious for you, what is how has your practice evolved, and what does it look like?
I just want to say before I answer this question that I think you sound like you're a really good teacher. So all your listeners, I want you to ask Diana for resources of where to go and where to learn. And because and it also takes you off the hook as a therapist because you can refer them to classes, you know, you're not trying to do everything in in the therapy sessions too. And it can be classes that you teach. I think that's okay. I really do, especially these days with Zoom.
Mm,
In my own practice, uh, I love and I'm so grateful for my practice. I love, love, love it, even though, as you say, it's challenging at times. It really is challenging. But what good thing in life is not challenging? Raising kids is challenging. Being in relationships is challenging. Finding work that we enjoy is challenging because you never enjoy all the bits of it. There's always parts that are difficult or boring or that you're not good at, right? So I think of it just as you were saying, it's a slice of life. And so whatever comes up in life is going to come up in meditation. And people, I mean, this I've seen so clearly now that I'm elderly and have practiced for so many years, is that it's not just about quieting your mind or stopping your thoughts or applying these practices to yourself. You do that at the beginning, just while you're learning. Now, what I really practice is a teaching that I've modified somewhat, but it comes from a 13th century Zen master named Dogen Zenji, who taught a practice that he called the backward step. And essentially, what he was saying is, just take a step back and receive what's happening because we're so conditioned to go out toward experience with our agenda for it, whatever it is. We have an idea of how it's going to go, how we want it to go. We see often what we want to see. I mean, I'm so guilty of that. I had a whole marriage where I just saw what I wanted to see. And I call him my husband because it's affectionate now. And my husband used to say to me, you just don't see people's dark side, do you?
mm,
So we see what we want to see. And so Dogen Zenji was saying, step back, just take a breath and step back. And I actually do it physically sometimes when I'm sitting. And if I notice I've gotten lost in some kind of idea, and the minute I notice, I actually shift my body back a little bit. And
mm,
just that movement of shifting the body back into a posture of receptivity where you're not going after things, you're letting things come to you, and you're not going after states or experiences. You're just seeing what comes to you and how can you be with that. That's awakening, because the contents of whatever's happening in this moment, that's the contents of our awakening. It's the ingredients of this particular moment in your life, this particular moment in your entire lifespan, this particular moment in all of eternity. So stepping back to experience the moment in that way, to receive the breath instead of controlling it the way you might do in yoga when you're practicing pranayama, to just let the breath breathe you, let the sounds come to you, the sensations in the body, the thoughts that appear, the emotions that rise and fall in the heart. That's how I'm practicing these days. And I can do it when I'm out and about too. In fact, you can try it right now, everyone who's listening. Look at something and focus on it, whatever it might be. And notice it's almost like all your attention is pouring out your eyes. And now just broaden your gaze and make it a little more panoramic. So right now I'm looking at the green dot of the camera on my computer, but I'm also now spreading out to see the lamp, the window, the walls, the desk I'm sitting at, the ball, the exercise ball I'm sitting on. It's like I'm expanding, and the specific thing blurs out a little bit, but instead I have the panorama. And if you practice doing that, don't do it while you're driving, okay? But you know, but you can have these little microchips of moments where you step back and you receive the world. And it's so nourishing. And it brings such a sense of gratitude. And as I mentioned before, reverence really for each conscious moment of aliveness that we have.
It's beautiful, and we can practice that. I was looking at my diploma on the wall, right? We can practice that with something neutral, but I'm imagining bringing that practice to something that's less neutral, like I'm in a fight with my husband and
Oh, wow.
I'm in tunnel vision about with my ideas about what that I'm right, or I'm trying to get my point across in that same kind of way, and the step back practice, the panoramic practice, and, I've heard Jed Brewer talk about it actually activates different areas of our brain when we have that more expansive visual view as well. I love that. And actually, Aneta Knopp, who we're going to be with in Costa Rica, she's a meditation teacher. She teaches something similar where she has people put their thumbs together right in front of their face. And then you keep your focus on your thumbs. Your thumbs are first right in front of you. This is like the me, right? And then you expand your thumbs to the side and you can see your thumbs at the side of your periphery while also, staying in attention to sort of this more bigger view, which feels very much like a practical thing. It's actually something that I'm always interested in how to do this off the cushion, right? And it's like a practical thing that you could do when you notice you're caught up. And when our threat system is activated, we tend to go into the I, me, mine narrowed view. So this is a nice strategy to use. I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
mean, when you're in the heat of an argument with your partner or whoever, you might not wanna just stick your thumbs out, and they
No,
might get
probably not.
angry. They might, but what you can do is actually physically take a step back,
Hmm.
and take a breath,
Yeah.
and you're not withdrawing, but you're there, but you're also just backing a little farther away from the heat of the moment.
Yeah, and I think the same is true when we see something that's beautiful, and we wanna
Yes,
grasp it,
yes,
and we wanna hold
yes.
on to it, we want it to be mine. If we step back and appreciate, I mean, I'm kinda doing that with you right now. I'm like, "This is a beautiful human. I wanna take her in with a more broader